Science is what we're going to talk about today. And I have some, I think, advanced but also common words and phrases that I want to quiz you on. And I tried to choose words that I think are a little more relevant because I know this topic is very broad. And if you like learning new words and phrases, building your vocabulary, please subscribe, turn on notifications. That way I can become your teacher. My name is Wes. The channel is Interactive English. It's all about trying to help you reach your goals. And as we go through this, I want you to participate in the lesson, answer the questions. This is, after all, Interactive English. And if you would like to get the lesson notes that you see right next to me, you can join our email community. Click on the link down in the description. If you are already a part of the community, check your inbox. I have sent them to you. So let's just jump into it and start with some must-know words and phrases. And I say must-know because I think these are this is vocabulary that you may come across if you're reading the newspaper, or maybe you're having a conversation about some topic related to science. And here is my first question. I think some are going to be a little easier than others, but this is an idea or explanation for something that is based on known facts but has not yet been proved is called a what? I'm basically giving you the meaning of this word. And this is definitely a word. It's related to science. This idea or an explanation for something, you're basing this on some known facts, but it hasn't been proved. You would say, well, I have this word right here. What do you think? And I think one of the key words in there, and I know in theory, it's not yet been proved. If something has not yet been proved, then in that case, it is a hypothesis. And that is the key part of this. It hasn't been proved yet. You would say then it is a hypothesis, and then you need to try to prove the hypothesis, or maybe it doesn't get proved. So that's really the difference between a theory and a hypothesis. A theory has been proved, and a hypothesis has not been proved. See some good answers in there. You guys are all on the right track. So to give you some more examples how this is used in context, and I told you it's common. These are just a few news headlines using this word. The rare earth hypothesis, a hotly debated solution to the Fermi paradox. I'm not really sure what the Fermi paradox is. From hypothesis to advances in cancer research. This is from the New York Academy of Sciences. Or Nature on the feasibility of malaria hypothesis. Scientific reports. Again, all related to science when you talk about a hypothesis. Good word to know. Then we have this phrase. The there are two missing words there, is the process of objectively establishing facts through testing and experimentation. Now, notice I've bolded the word the. It's really a part of the phrase because you're really talking about the what. There are two missing words, and again, I'm giving you the meaning. This process of objectively establishing facts through testing, through experimentation, and it is called what? What do you think? I'll give you a moment to think of an answer. Write your answers in the chat. I always love hearing from you. Even if you're watching this later, please write your answers in the comments. So this process, which I think if you take any science class, they're going to talk about this process, or specifically this method, because it is known as the scientific method. So you may talk about trying to establish facts, and you're going to test, experiment, and you're going to use the scientific method. That's really what this phrase is. And like I said, you really would talk about, use it with the article the scientific method. To put more of this into context for you, I thought this was a funny meme using different pictures, like the scientific method. So it starts up here like observation, then you come up with a question, And then there's the hypothesis, like what do you think? The prediction with Keanu Reeves' face right there. Then you're going to experiment, you get your results, and either the hypothesis is rejected right there in the middle, like Jackie Chan's picture, or it's accepted and then it becomes a theory. And then back to the observation. So this is using memes to kind of give you some images and the process of the scientific method. Then we have this, again, there's so much to cover when talking about science, and I am going to bounce around with vocabulary in different fields of science. And I think, again, you can see the animals up here, and you see this circle. What is this referring to? And if you're having trouble reading it, you can start with the the grass, the producer. And then the grasshopper is the primary consumer. The bird is the secondary consumer. And then the snake is the tertiary consumer. The owl is the apex predator. And then we move on to the mushroom, which we're talking about decomposers. So what is this? What am I showing you right here as we go through this circle? It's really a visual of what? Okay, it's not the food pyramid. I mean, it does have something to do with food. I'll give you that hint right there. We're talking about what? And again, this is a phrase you may come across if you're talking about animals in the environment and who is hunting who and eating this person, because this case, this is an image. I haven't seen any answers. All right, interesting. The food chain. We're talking about the food chain, that the grasshopper will eat, the grass, the bird will come after the grasshopper, the snake then eats the bird. The owl is the apex predator in this case, which would mean that they're hunting other animals, but nobody's really hunting the owl. And then when the owl passes away, they decompose, which is the mushroom, and it just goes around in a circle, and this is the food chain. All right, now, I don't know, there was a delayed response. Now I'm seeing all those answers in there, but good job, everybody. How about this? This is one that I do think that you will read when talking about, if you're reading a newspaper article about the environment, or if you're having a discussion about the environment, could be talking about climate change, is the purposeful clearing of forest land by people. This is happening in many parts of the world. I really do think this is a word that you've probably heard. Again, I don't know if you end up actively using this vocabulary. That is the goal, that you not just learn the vocabulary passively, but if you're in a conversation, you're talking about some topic, that these words will come up and you can use it in context. But this is a common word, and I would still say it is advanced. It's specific. Excellent. I see a lot of great answers. Just give some shout outs. Curious Ghost, Mythather, Yaneka, Ava, Rosie. Perfect. We're talking about deforestation. So when people mention deforestation, it's done by people. They're clearing the land for one reason or another. It could have to do with development. But if you read articles that might be talking about the Amazon rainforest, this is a word that will certainly come up. To give you more of an example as to how common this word is used, if we go to Ngram Viewer and I just typed it, I put in the word deforestation and then the word Superman. You're familiar with Superman, the superhero, DC Comics. The frequency that they're used is pretty much the same. So again, this is a word that is related to the environment. It is a science word that is common, one that I would definitely recommend that you make a part of your active vocabulary. Deforestation. The next one, this maybe is a little trickier. So again, I'm giving you the meaning. Is a state in which opposing forces or influences are balanced. This is a state in which opposing forces or influences are balanced. And I think a key word in there, just to give you a little bit of a hint, is the word balanced. So, what do you think? If you have any guesses, write it in the chat. Don't worry if you get the wrong answer, it's not a problem. This is all about practicing and just using the vocabulary that you already know, trying to guess these answers. So, when we're talking about opposing forces or influences that are balanced, we're referring to the equilibrium. Excellent. Great job, Karim, for Boers. Nice. Nishat. Perfect. So, equilibrium is the state in which forces or influences are balanced. When talking about this word, I gave you the general meaning, but within the different types of science like chemistry, biology, physics, the meaning may slightly change. And that's what I wanted to show you right here when talking about equilibrium. So I'll read this quickly. In chemistry, it says the state in which the reactants and products do not change because the rate of forward reaction is equal to the rate of reverse reaction. If we're talking about biology, equilibrium is the state of balance maintained by the various organisms that live in a particular environment. There's that word again, balanced. And in physics, it also means the state of balance between opposing forces. And that was more the meaning that I gave you. So just keep in mind that within these different areas of science, chemistry, biology, physics, the meaning may change slightly. And of course, if we're talking about equilibrium, it's also the title of a movie from, I believe, 2002, starring Christian Bale about some dystopian future. And it's actually a decent movie if you haven't seen it, and it's called Equilibrium. The next part of this, I want to quiz you on different types of scientists. So when you think of science, there are different areas, and you would have the name of this area of science, this field of science, and then the scientist. I just want you to tell me, well, what is the scientist called? So, for example, the first one, what do you call a physical scientist who observes, studies, and forecasts the weather? And now that I realize, like, when I say it like that, it almost makes me think like I'm telling a joke. What do you call a physical scientist who observes? This is not a joke, but in all seriousness, yes. What would you call this person? This is a scientist, observes, studies, or forecasts the weather. And I feel like I'll get to it in just a second. If you watch the local news, or even I'd say the national news, then they talk about the weather. They're going to cut over to this person who is going to talk about the weather forecast, and that is when you will hear this word. So yeah, it is another name is a weatherman or weatherwoman, but specifically, if we're talking about the scientist, you guys rock this one, the meteorologist. A meteorologist is a person who observes, studies, and forecasts the weather, but specifically to my point, what I was trying to talk about, I think a lot of times you see these people on TV. These are all examples of, different meteorologists giving the weather forecast, but excellent. Great job. Ella, Angela, Zara, Miranda. Perfect. John, a lot of good answers with that one. Okay. All right. I think you guys maybe know these scientists. Let's see if you know this one. All right. This is a scientist who studies the history of life on Earth through the fossil record. So I don't know. I'm not sure maybe if you'll confuse this with another one. So the history of life on Earth through the fossil record, specifically, what would you call this type of scientist? I'll give you a hint just because I like having a little fun. This is more of a pop culture hint. When you think of the TV show Friends, very famous show from a long time ago, there was a character called Ross. This was Ross's job. Ross was a what? All right, that's a little pop culture quiz as well. But this type of scientist, in case you're unfamiliar, studying through the fossil record, is a paleontologist. Well done, Karim, Tong Melon. Nice. All right, saw some good answers. I thought maybe, again, people might think of archaeologists when they're digging up and trying to learn about communities and the animals that were there. So I think, again, in this case, we're talking about the history through the fossil record. Paleontologists, we're talking about paleontology. So that was a little trickier. How about this one? Who is a scientist that studies the origin and structure of the universe, including its planets, stars, galaxies, and black holes? I think this one's a little easier, but I know when I've talked about this word in the past, some people confused it with another word that is also related to the stars. So they study the origin and structure of the universe, plants, stars, galaxies, black holes. This person is a what? I hope that you were thinking about an astronomer. All right. Ainur, Angela, good job. Astronomers, they would study the origin and structure of the universe, stars, galaxies. Sometimes I saw astrophysicist in this case. I was thinking that there might be a little more confusion with an astrologer. So I know when we're talking about the stars in the skies, there are different types of scientists. Specifically, when we're talking about stars, galaxies, black holes, an astronomer, astronomy would be the subject, and astronomer would be the scientist. So just, let's have a look at the next one. Simply put, this scientist studies plants. What would you call a scientist who studies plants? And this does have a specific name, and you would talk about, well, the study of plants is a specific field of science. And a person who studies plants is called, let's see any guesses. So, there they are. Nice. A botanist. A botanist is a scientist who studies plants. Excellent. Onyenye, Ella, just a random person. Good job. The last one for these different types of scientists. Which kind of scientist studies animals and plants that live in the sea? Again, I feel like this is a scientist that maybe you've come across, or you've heard about, newspaper, an article, or maybe listening to the news, or I don't, just through your travels maybe, and you've heard this type of scientist, the kind of scientist that studies the animals and plants that live in the sea. So we're talking about the sea. Okay, plants and animals in general, because I had to change around the wording when I asked this question. We're talking about marine life. And the study of life, of course, biology, we're talking about a marine biologist. I think many of you got that. So yeah, marine biologists would study animals and plants that live in the sea, the ocean, is a marine biologist. Excellent. I think so many of you got that one. Perfect. Now I want to do another part of this little mini science vocabulary quiz that I have for you. And I want you to complete the sentences. And the first one is, well, we're going back to astronomy. There are planets in our what? So there are planets. We're looking for a number in our. There are two words. This is the phrase that I really wanted to point out. And again, it's a common phrase. I think if you're talking about astronomy, this is a phrase that may come up. You're studying science, general science. You're going to hear this phrase when talking about planets, because in this case, we're talking about, again, two words. We're talking about our solar system. And there are 8 planets in our solar system. When I was back in school a long time ago, there were actually 9 planets in our solar system. So in case you're wondering, here are the 8 planets listed from their proximity to the sun. You have Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. And the one that got demoted was Pluto, because I put that up there. Does Pluto belong to our solar system? This I thought was kind of funny. I'll just read this to you. In 2006, the International Astronomical Union, the IAU, demoted the much-loved Pluto from its position as the ninth planet from the Sun to one of 5 dwarf planets. The IAU had likely not anticipated the widespread outrage that followed the change in our solar system's lineup. I just thought that was humorous, like this widespread outrage when Pluto got demoted. I don't know if you also experience and express some outrage when that happened, but there are currently there are 8 planets in our solar system. How would you complete these sentences? So you have the grasshopper, the mouse, and the owl. Animals that eat plants are called what? Animals that eat both plants and meat are called this. And animals that eat meat are called what? I feel like probably some of these words are more commonly used than other, but if we're talking about science and the environment and the animals and which animals are eating other animals, again, these are words that you will come across. These are words that you will use. So what do you think? And a lot of times you may, you're going to use them not together. You might use them together because you're talking about these different animals that either eat plants or eat meat or eat both plants and meat. So I think you guys are a lot on the right track with this one. We're talking about herbivores, omnivores, and carnivores. So like the grasshopper is an herbivore, only eats plants. Mice are omnivores. They eat both plants and meat. And the owl is a carnivore and really just eats meat. Even though I think there are some kind of owls that might be omnivores. But in general, you have those 3 words: herbivores, omnivores, carnivores. How about this right here? I think you all know this word. Again, it's a common word. I think a good one to know, still related to science. If you leave a pot of hot water, or if you leave a pot of water on a hot stove, if you leave a pot of water on a hot stove, the water is going to do what? What verb is missing? You have this hot stove, the water, it's boiling, and it's going to what? This is again a word that you use talking about science. Maybe, I don't know, you're listening to a meteorologist talk about something and they may use this verb because when water heats, the liquid turns to a gas, and you would say it's going to evaporate. All right, I think a lot of you got that one. Excellent. And this is, again, a liquid changes to a gas, especially by heating, it's going to evaporate. So the next one, let me know what you think. In order to speed up the reaction, we need a what? This is a word that is a science word, but I also want, I'm sharing it with you because it's also used in other contexts as well, which I think can be very useful. But in general, it is a science word. You're talking about speeding up a reaction. And in order to do that, you will need find a noun. I feel like just me saying it, you could hopefully think of the word. A what? We're talking about a noun, and I see, all right, some good answers in there. Nice. Owning, just a random person, a catalyst. So Ella, good job. If we're talking about a catalyst is something that makes a chemical reaction happen more quickly without itself being changed, and it's a catalyst. Now, there are other ways that this may be used, because you can talk about catalyst as being like something that causes a big change. And I think you will often use this word maybe in everyday conversation. I gave you some collocations right there, along with some news headlines. You could talk about the catalyst behind something. This article says the catalyst behind my passion for journalism and why I embrace the field. Or maybe you talk about the catalyst for something. Here's this headline: Mobile Internet, a catalyst for economic growth in Africa. Or a catalyst to do something. This article for poetry aficionados in Chennai, I'm probably mispronouncing that, April serves as a catalyst to create. To create poetry, this is a catalyst. So here, I know I gave you a fair number of words. These are some of the words we talked about. They're all related to science. If you enjoy learning science vocabulary, let me know. Hit that like button, because there are definitely more lessons like this I can do in the future. It is a topic that you are going to come across watching the news, reading a newspaper, or even in general conversations. If you're talking about something like climate change, a lot of this vocabulary may come up. I tried to give you a little bit of variety as we went through this and talk about words that are, I think, a little more advanced, but still common. So, of course, I want you to tell me, how did you do on the quiz? You can let me know and write your answer right there. How did you do on the quiz? And you could say, like, I am a scientist, like 100%. Maybe I did pretty well, 50%. And maybe another one, because most of us, we study science in school. You could say, oh, I need to go back to school. Maybe 25%. What do you think? You can let me know how you did on this quiz. I always love hearing from you. Always write to me in the comments, and I try to respond. And again, if you want to get these lesson notes, you can join my email community. Link is in the description. If you're already a part of it, check your inbox, because I have sent them to you. But I want to thank everybody for joining me today. Thank you, Lali. Good to see you. Ella, Karim, Mythecker, Carlos, glad you enjoyed the lesson. I hope that you knew most of these words. Maybe some of them were new. I always want to build vocabulary. But thank you guys so much for being here, and I will see you soon for another lesson in the future.